Another episode of the Worth the Crowd podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Douglas Harden. As always, I'm here with Jacob Klukas. What's going on, buddy?
What's going on, buddy? Happy holidays to everybody.
Happy holidays. Christmas is over. This has been a long week for me, at least, and I'm sure a lot of others out there. And then now we got New Year's coming up. So here's to a good 2026 coming up. So everybody, get your New Year's resolutions going.
And
But
actually stick to them.
Yeah, I think I don't know. Like I heard a stat says like they end like in March usually is when New Year's resolutions end,
Yeah,
something like that. But
probably about right.
yeah, but for our resolution today, we're going to talk a lot about NFL, um, and then we have a couple of things of NBA and college, but and then some college football playoff, some more rumors on that stuff. So
Yeah,
let's go
so
ahead and just jump into it.
I'm gonna start on that real quick, just because it's a real quick piece. Because obviously we had a bunch of bowl games yesterday, so the couple of them were fun to watch. Um, Obviously the highlight of the day was the Pop Tart Bowl, Georgia Tech BYU, which for a while there looked like it was just going to be a Georgia Tech dominating win. Um, BYU came back and actually ended up winning it, um, albeit Haynes King trying to make it more entertaining at the end. But but yeah, and then like I said, pretty much a lot of the bowl games were played yesterday. A couple of good games, but again, we've talked about this before. The bowl games are so meaningless that I bet you if you asked outside of like diehard college football fans, nobody even knew bowl games were being played yesterday. So
I mean, I knew they were being played. I just didn't watch them.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like Pop
I
Tart
mean,
Bowl, like I said, is kind of like the main one now that everybody gets excited for now.
yeah.
But yeah. So the college football thing for this week is it's yesterday they came out. It's rumors on the college football playoff expansion, seedings, and timeline for potential changes. This is an article by Bleacher Report that came out and said um, with the January 23rd deadline incoming from the College Football Playoff Management Committee to finalize a format for the future. There are details about options that are being considered. So apparently, options that are being considered. Um, one of them is obviously no change to the field at all, sticking to the 12-team format. One of them is expanding to 16 teams as early as 2026, so next year, or expand to 24 teams as of 2027.
Oh God.
Yeah. Um, the key date in the negotiations are being January 18th, which is what it's being rumored as to when we'll have an idea of what we're gonna have going forward. One of the other things that is being discussed, the SEC, um, it said Russo did note agreement from the SEC and Big Ten is essential for any potential changes. One thing they also are looking at is SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey is not a fan of automatic qualifiers, and there's it basically getting rid of Group of Five, getting rid of the automatic, kind of the stuff we talked about last week a little bit. Just get rid of qualifiers, get rid of the Group of Five unless they fall into that top 16 whatever ranking, and put the best teams in, regardless. And here's my thing, and also I didn't really touch on this earlier. We kind of did with the Notre Dame Miami thing, but what is the point of a week to week college football playoff ranking when for 3 weeks Notre Dame was in the top 10? So, which means to me that says that their playoff spot was secure if you're in the top 10 for the most part. And then all of a sudden for the last week, you drop them to like 12, which knocked them out. What was the point?
I don't
So
know.
either
I agree.
follow by your own fucking rankings week by week, or at this point, let's not have a college football playoff ranking week by week. Let's just have the AP poll, and the AP poll is what the AP poll is all throughout the year. And then when we announce the playoff, that's when you announce your playoff ranking. You know, I just don't see the point of a week by week poll if the week by week poll is not going to mean jack shit by the end of the year. So, this does say also, though, expanding to 16 teams next season would maintain most elements of the 12-team format while adding 4 at-large bids. So basically, it would kind of just be the same 12, the 12-team format, basically the same rules, same everything, just adding 4 at-large teams. So this is where your Notre Dame, your Texas, your Vanderbilt, and people like them probably would have got in.
And so, with a rumor of them possibly going to 24 teams, so you're basically just saying anybody in the top 25 is going to be able to go to a bowl game.
So it says, according to Russo, the 24-team format would take time to implement because it would eliminate conference championship games, thus requiring conferences to rework their television deals that include them in the contract. It says November 24th that the Big 12 had the Big 10, had the idea of the 24-team format. To the other Power Conference commissioners, the format would grant 4 automatic bids to each Power 4 conferences, 2 to the highest ranked non-Power 4 conference champions, and 6 at-large bids.
Which is better because then the teams that should probably still get in should get in.
Yeah, and then also it says the SJC is not on board with the 24-team playoff. There, from what I'm gathering from this article, the popular what's probably going to happen is the 16 team.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
So it says if the field stays at 12 teams in 2026, the selection process will be different because Notre Dame signed that basically that contract that guaranteed its college football playoff berth if it's in the top 12 rankings for next year.
How is that legal?
I'm not sure, but it's obviously in writing and it was signed off. So
just because they're an independent, why wouldn't teams just leave conferences at this point then? If that almost would solidify you a playoff spot. You get to schedule whichever games you want, whoever accepts.
Well, that also calls back to even if you're not like our conversation of you're better off not playing in your conference championship game.
Yeah, they should get rid of those regardless if they're not going to matter.
I mean, if Notre Dame can do stuff like that, then like you said, if we can't go independent, then I'm going to play my way to be good enough to be in the playoff, obviously, but I'm going to be bad enough to not play my conference championship game then every year.
Right. I mean, there's no logic here. They're just running around like a chicken with its head cut off. That's how I'm seeing it. They're just trying different things until that something sticks. Because we're going to be back in the same spot. Whoever's in that 17, 18 spot is still going to make an argument that they should be in over whoever.
My only thing is with the 16 team, yes, there's going to be arguments no matter what.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. You can go to 20, you could go to a field of 65 and there's going to be somebody that bitches and complains that they didn't get in and they deserve to get in. But I would say with 16, usually probably that 16 mark is usually about that cutoff between, either we understand you're a really good 9-3 team and you just played a tough schedule, or you're just a 9-3 team that didn't play anybody and you're 9-3 because you didn't play anybody, or 10-2, or whatever the case may be. So I feel like 16 is a little bit easier of a cutoff to be able to tell, but it's still going to be open for discussion no matter what. So
as soon as Alabama is in that 16, 17 spot, all hell's going to break loose.
And the minute any of those top, any of those top teams, if Notre Dame falls in that spot, it's going to be a problem. Ohio State ever falls into that spot, it's going to be a problem. Alabama, Georgia, Texas, even for the most part, like schools like USC, whenever they start falling into that spot, which the 16's right around that mark where they're going to fall into, it's going to be a problem. Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see. My only thing is I really don't care if they go to a 16, they stick to 12. I don't want to see 24. I think 24 is doing way
That's
too
too
much.
much. Yeah.
16 I'm okay with. My only thing that I ask is that let's not, if you go 16, don't push it next year. Let's give this an extra year of the 12 team and figure out your goddamn scheduling first before you go to that 16 team format. Take a year, decide on your scheduling, and let's move, and then we can move forward with an updated, playoff format. So figure out your schedule. And when I say your schedule, I'm talking about figure out where the portal and everything else doesn't mix in while the playoffs and bowl games are going on. We got to figure that out. So that's just my 2 cents on it. Take a year, figure it out, come to an agreement, and then move forward with the 16 team playoff. So,
Yeah.
but
What about with the 16 team? Are they we probably should keep the non-power 4 out, right? 16
I,
best teams.
but with that, it says this with the 16
I know
teams,
it's going to be the same thing.
it's still, it actually ups it to 2 group of 5s, is what it says.
So that whatever. That just doesn't.
So basically by that you're going 14 team, you're going 14 best teams. In theory.
And then 2 teams that are just going to get mollywopped.
Yeah.
Whatever. Okay.
I mean, the only other way I could see you format, I mean, if you want to, it'd be hard to format it because you have to do it. I mean, I think you could do it by just simply reseeding after the second round, which they should do anyway. If one of these teams were to get upset, there's no reason why the 1 seed in the tournament should have to play one of the 3 tougher opponents because of the way the bracket is set. Just reseed and they get whatever the lowest seed is, and then you go from there.
Yep. That makes more sense.
The NFL does it. Why can't college football do it? That's what I don't understand.
Well, because
NFL they do reseeding every round. So it makes the most sense. But yeah, so that's pretty much it with college football. Let's move on to the NFL. We've got a lot to talk about with the NFL. I want to start off with 2 teams here in the NFL, Doug. One, I would say, coming off of last year, had a lot of hope, a lot of, potential, trying to bounce, trying to capitalize on a great season they had last year. One of them probably wasn't expected to do a whole lot this year. Ended up doing a lot in the first half of the season and then just absolutely fell apart. These last 7 games, to be exact. And first team is the Detroit Lions, that obviously probably had a lot of hype, a lot of hope going into this year, coming off a 15-2 season last year. Have obviously high hopes of, winning a division, playing in the NFC Championship game, potentially going to a Super Bowl. And then that second team is the Indianapolis Colts, obviously, if you couldn't tell. But I want to start with the Lions because the Lions have been knocked out of the playoffs. Okay. That was set in stone as of Thursday, I believe. And so the Detroit Lions on the year are Detroit Lions are 8-8. So even if they were to they play their last game against the Bears, they win. If they beat the Bears, they'd finish 9-8 with still a winning record. I don't know if they beat the Bears. I'm going to assume they don't because the Bears are actually really good this year. But an 8-9 season is kind of a very, very disappointing year if you're the Detroit Lions. And
absolutely,
I didn't predict 8-9, but this was my team. If you remember during our NFL preview that I said, this is your team that could take a huge dip because of losing both coordinators and how much that means. Losing Ben Johnson, obviously, you see how much that meant. The offense wasn't really as explosive as we've seen Detroit in the last couple of years. Now we see Chicago with an exciting offense. With Ben Johnson, obviously Aaron Glenn hasn't worked out with the Jets, but to be fair to Aaron Glenn, nobody works out with the Jets, so I can't really knock him for that.
That's fair.
Because look at Robert Saleh, was the coach of the Jets for the last couple of years. Now he's playing with literally random people he's picked up off the streets on defense, and San Francisco has one of the best defenses in the NFL. But new coordinators. I said, and there's obviously what I'm going to get at with this is there's a ceiling with Jared Goff, and we've kind of known this. Jared Goff is a very good quarterback. A friend, right there, kind of you want to talk about. I would say he's probably anywhere between 8 to probably 14 if you were to rank the starting quarterbacks. If you put him anywhere in that range, I can't really argue. But he has a ceiling. And we've seen it. His ceiling with a really good roster. We've seen it in Detroit. We've seen it in LA. You can go to a Super Bowl. He did it in LA with a really good roster built by Sean McVay and the Rams. Went to the Super Bowl, just ran into Tom Brady. We've seen with the Lions, they've gone to an NFC championship game, and they lost. And I believe that was when they lost to the 49ers, they lost to Brock Purdy and the Niners in the NFC championship game. But the problem is there is a ceiling with Jared Goff. And when you're trying to take a team over the top and you lose both coordinators and you got all these things that are already going against you, your quarterback's got to be able to help uplift you over those things. And Jared Goff just isn't that guy to do that. So I think if Detroit, unless they're not going anywhere, they're not going anywhere in terms of, I don't think you're not going to see 15-2 again. I don't think, unless they go out and make a splash hire as an offensive coordinator or something this offseason. You're not going to see 15-2 again. I don't see this team with the way some of these younger teams in the NFC look right now making a Super Bowl. So you kind of have to look yourself in the mirror and go, I don't want to say blow this up, but maybe you look to move off Goff and try to find something else. And I've got two options here and they're two astronomical options because we've talked about it before. But the two options I think you could look to consider, and you'd have to give up a bunch of picks plus Jared Goff plus, potentially maybe a player or two. One's Lamar Jackson, who might be very unhappy now in Baltimore. You got an aging Derrick Henry. John Harbaugh's obviously not taking them anywhere else. I mean, when Lamar's injured, Harbaugh and Lamar can't ever even be on the same page. Yeah. Harbaugh will come out on Wednesday and be like, "Oh, Lamar is fine. He'll play." And then the next day it'll be, he didn't practice all week. He's probably not playing. Where's the miscue here? So I think there's something going on. And I think if the Ravens were to choose to keep Harbaugh coming back next year, maybe could a disgruntled quarterback ask for a trade? And maybe it could be one of those trades where, I don't think it would push Baltimore obviously anymore. It's one of those trades that works out for both sides. Detroit could get what they want and a superstar quarterback to help elevate their team. And the Ravens can get a Pro Bowl level quarterback where they don't necessarily, they don't drop down tremendously. So that could be one. And I think the other one is another disgruntled quarterback in the AFC North and Joe Burrow. Again, now I don't know how the money works and all this. So I didn't sit down and break it down that way. I'm just thinking about it as you got to find quarterbacks that could elevate you. And with the roster you have, those two obviously push you over that. They either one of those that gives you the best quarterback in your division by far. They give you arguably the best quarterback outside of probably in that conference outside of Matthew Stafford, maybe gives you the best quarterback in your conference. So I don't know. I don't know. There's just a ceiling with Jared Goff, and I just don't know. The Lions aren't gonna move forward as long as Jared Goff is there. So now, like, it's just like you're kind of in that scenario of what do you do?
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure. Or, maybe one of these other teams like Cleveland, Vegas, you're willing to throw in a couple picks and you want to trade Jared Goff to one of these teams that need a quarterback and want to try to just draft your own. You know, I could see a ceiling where, because I feel like if you were to do the drafting, like if you were to get up that high, let's just say, to me, as good as Fernando Mendoza is, to me, his comp is Jared Goff in the NFL. I don't know if getting rid of Goff and taking Mendoza necessarily elevates you.
Right.
But I think somebody with a higher ceiling, now it's not that much higher of a ceiling, but like a Dante Moore from Oregon, if you were to add him, it adds a little bit more juice just because you have his legs to work with if need be. So, like, if you were to do something like that, I could see that being an option as well. I'm just not sure where the Lions go, and especially with so much money tied into Jared Goff as well. I'm not sure what the next move for the Lions really is. You got a lot of young pieces. Amon-Ra, still young. Jameson Williams, young. Jahmyr Gibbs, one of the best running backs in the league, young. Like, Aiden Hutchinson, one of the best pass rushers, young. Penei Sewell, one of the best left, if not the best left tackle in the league, young. Like, where do you go from here? And the only thing I can point to is the quarterback.
Or coordinators, coaching.
Yeah. I mean, maybe is getting rid of, Dan Campbell the next move, but you would have to upgrade. Like getting rid of Dan Campbell wouldn't have to be, oh well, if we get rid of Dan Campbell, we're gonna go take, Robert Saleh from the Niners. That you're not necessarily upgrading. You have to upgrade if you're gonna do it. So that's the only thing. If firing Dan Campbell, or what you're getting in return better than Dan Campbell is the only thing.
Yeah, I wouldn't think they get rid of Dan Campbell, but I think they could get rid of a offensive coordinator. I know they just hired one, but like if it's not fitting, it's not fitting.
But
I don't know.
Then there's the Colts. And this one's a little bit more near and dear to our hearts, obviously, as fans. So talking about this for us might be a little bit more emotional. So we talked about it right before we hopped on. I think now that the Colts are eliminated from the playoffs, I don't see a purpose in playing Phillip Rivers. I understand when you were playing Phillip Rivers because you honestly thought he gave you your best chance to win. You get a playoff spot potentially. I understand it. But playoff hopes are done. At this point, why do we not just throw Anthony Richardson in the last two games? See if maybe we can create some kind of spark out of Anthony Richardson, some kind of flash of, okay, we can build off this going into next year. For at least minimum, we can play him while Daniel Jones is healing. Or I can find out right now, all right, clearly AR is not the way. We got to go get something while we wait on Daniel Jones, or we get something that maybe replaces Daniel Jones. I think if you're going to go that route of trying to maybe potentially look to replace Daniel Jones, if you're going to keep Steichen, this is all these moves are going to be if you keep Steichen, because I think Steichen is still an amazing play caller. The only issue I have with Steichen's play calling is Steichen gets a lead and then gets very, very, very conservative. And I'm sorry. If you're not up in the NFL, 28-30, you don't need to be playing conservative because of the way that teams can just come back now.
Yeah.
But Steichen gets a 10-point lead and starts being very, very, very conservative. And that's not what you need to do. So if I'm the Colts, first of all, I'm getting rid of Chris Ballard. I'm sorry. I've tried to give Ballard the benefit of the doubt because he has made solid moves. He's drafted pretty well for the most part. But like like that tweet I told you about earlier said, if I put his resume on any other team in the NFL, that he would have been fired already. So it's time to move on. Bring in a new GM. And listen, if the new GM, whenever he comes in, if he wants to get rid of Steichen and bring in his own guy, by all means, go for it. But I think you keep Steichen for at least one more year. I think if you're going to go with the route of, we're going to potentially look to replace Daniel Jones because we don't trust how he's going to come back off an Achilles. I think you look towards maybe Arizona's looking to move off Kyler in that scenario. And maybe you can bring Kyler to Indianapolis and hopes to do the same thing you did with Daniel Jones and kind of revitalize his career a little bit around a good supporting cast and, go that route. I've kind of seen the Tua thing with the Dolphins. I do not want Tua. I don't want the fear of my quarterback dying every time he gets hit. But really, in terms of like quarterbacks that could be replacements that could be on the move, those are really the only two that could be potentially like on the move. The others you would get would probably be just fillers for Daniel Jones waiting for him to return. But there is one name that I've told you that I think he falls into either category, and it would be based on how he played. And that would be to sign Malik Willis this offseason, get him in the building. He can be everything that you wanted to build the offense around AR to be. A little bit more of a proven passer now that he has spent 2 years with Matt LaFleur in Green Bay. He's now learned the mechanics, learned how to throw, and clearly we could see it because now when he plays, when Jordan Love's been out, Malik Willis has torn it up, throwing and running. I mean, last night, I think when I looked it up against Baltimore, they lost, but still, he was 18 of 21 throwing. So, and these aren't just, dink and dunks. He's throwing deep balls to Christian Watson. Like, he's dropping them in a breadbasket. So I think you can go the Malik Willis route, and if he hits and is playing really well, all right, now we can just move off Daniel Jones, and we have Malik Willis to build off of, and he's still young.
Yep.
Or if he's, just okay, and he kind of falls back down to earth, and it's just okay or bad. All right, now we got Daniel Jones in our back pocket when he comes back off injury. Hopefully, he looks the same. So if not, if you're just looking at just other fillers, you're talking about maybe you bring back Jacoby Brissett, which wouldn't be a bad option. Seeing how he plays he's playing in Arizona right now. You look maybe at, Jameis Winston as a filler. You look at somebody like maybe Justin Fields as a filler. Tyrod Taylor would be another good like filler for right now. You're just looking at some of these other guys that would just be essentially, like I said, just fillers until Daniel Jones comes back. Or option C, which is kind of the option neither me or you want to see, regardless of if they played him the last 2 games or not, would be you roll into the year with Anthony Richardson.
Such a wild card.
So the Andrew Luck has put us in such a predicament since 2018 that we have just never been able to. I've just never seen a franchise that lose somebody like that and then never like figure it out after that. Like, even look at the Patriots. Patriots lost Tom Brady. He went to Tampa. Granted, it took them a little bit, but they figured it out. They drafted Drake May. They figured it out. And even still, beforehand, they had Mac Jones, who was okay, at least for them.
Yeah, we saw a little bit of that this year.
And maybe that's a filler for the Colts. We'll just throw that out there as well. And that could be kind of like a Malik Willis. If he hits, he hits. You could keep him. If not, whatever. But like, I've just outside of the Browns, and then really us. You could throw the Saints in there because the Saints really haven't had an answer since Drew Brees has left. And that's been a couple of years. But and I guess technically, really, since Big Ben left, the Steelers have been kind of just rotating quarterbacks too, for the most part, but they still been winning. So you kind of don't think about them. But Steelers, Browns, the Colts, and really outside of that, like everybody else has pretty much figured out their quarterback spot for the most part. Since they've lost somebody, maybe the Raiders we could throw in there, but we got to see what they do in the draft this year, maybe. But I don't understand why it's taken them so long to figure this out. And maybe it is just Ballard, and it's just you got to get him out, get a fresh new mind in. And listen, and I'm of the with the new age NFL and analytics and everything that gets thrown involved into it. If they get rid of Ballard, you got to find yourself a young GM. That's what I think. But and then the Colts, the difference between the Colts and the Lions is the Lions, like other pieces, are young. The Colts' other pieces are old for the most part. So I just don't know. I don't know what direction we go without having Indiana Jones going into next year. I don't know if we potentially look to just tank the year next year and hope the 2027 draft class is, as good as advertised potentially with Arch Manning in them. I don't know.
But I don't know.
I think
Go ahead.
No, I was saying I truly just don't know.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's you have to reset. Teams that are not figuring it out, they're not resetting enough, in my opinion. So for the Colts, you have to start somewhere, and they've been going through head coaches left and right. I think Steichen's not a bad head coach. You already kind of touched on that. Ballard's got to go. That's the next reset. Irsay's gone. RIP. It's time for a full reset. Get rid of Ballard. Let's get somebody else in here that, like you said, a young, hungry, wants to win, not stuck in their ways type of thing. Because the Patriots, forever, Bill Belichick was the GM and the coach. So after they got rid of Belichick, they got rid of their GM as well. And they hired, I was just doing a little Googling, they promoted Elliott Wolf, who was he was like a scout, like a, what did they say he was? Director of scouting. And they promoted him to lead the personnel. They brought in Jared Mayo, and then obviously he left, and they hired Vrabel. And now look at him. So, to me, the teams aren't resetting enough. So, I think if the Colts got rid of Ballard, they bring somebody else in here who's got new ideas. Maybe that's the spark we need to put us over the top. Because we were there. We were absolutely there. 8-2, rolling. And then we just collapsed. Which is it's like a historical collapse.
Yeah. No, it is.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So for all those other teams, they're just not resetting enough. They got to fire everyone, reset, get everybody out of the building, and start over. That's what they're not doing. So, too much loyalty. You can be loyal to a fault.
Yeah, and
really, one of these other teams is, I know you're kind of mentioning Lions and Colts. What's next? Like that's kind of where it stemmed from. But the next thing is the Chiefs, because they missed the playoffs. Mahomes got hurt. They were already going to miss the playoffs, even if he was healthy. Most likely. So, what do they do? Is Kelsey probably done? Kind of looks like he's not enjoying football enough, or he's mad.
Yeah,
Mahomes coming off an ACL, and a pretty bad knee injury, who's not getting any younger.
I think Kelsey is done. I think
Yeah, I
that's
think so.
I think
He's
that's
gonna live
pretty
his life
much
with Taylor and
yeah.
go
I
fuck
think
off.
he's ready to settle down, start a family.
Yeah, I don't blame him.
Yeah, you
He
can't blame him.
What else does he have to prove? I mean, he's
Yeah,
one
I
of
mean
the best tight ends in history.
he's one of the top, I would say, 3 tight ends ever.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, he doesn't. I mean, he's got multiple Super Bowls, so it's not like he needs another Super Bowl to add to. He's obviously it doesn't hurt, but I think he's done.
Yeah.
I think if you're the Chiefs, I don't think it's a rebuild for them more so than it is a retool. So the only thing, so I'm looking at, you look at the Chiefs, they're going to have a high pick, which is the first time in forever. They're going to have a top 10, top 12 pick. First time in forever since they probably, I think since they drafted Mahomes. I think, you got to either, their problem and where you talked about, loyalty can kill you. That's the Chiefs' problem. The Chiefs kind of have the Golden State problem. And why the Warriors have never been able to progress in the NBA is because I understand why, but when you're loyal to these players for so long and they're getting older and not getting better and you're not getting younger, you wonder why you're not doing anything else.
Yeah, it's true.
So when you're 3 really core guys on the team that have been there since the beginning, been part of that, which by the way, let's talk about that. The Chiefs' 7-year run, the last 7 years, is arguably one of the best 7-year runs we've ever seen in the NFL. Like it or hate it, it's one of the best 7-year runs you've ever seen. All right. But there is a time when you just got to go, it's over. And I think I think last year you should have just said it was over. But now for sure you have to go, it's over. So I think you got to move off Chris Jones. That gives off a bunch of money. I get it. He's one of the best D tackles in the league, but he's not getting any younger. He's already old in terms of a defensive tackle, like in their age and how well they usually play going into those later years. You got to move off him because you got to be able to start freeing up some money. The problem with paying Mahomes all this money is when you start paying your quarterback, you start losing everywhere else. So get rid of Chris Jones. Obviously, getting rid of Kelsey drops down a lot of money as well after he retires. So now I'm looking at, what do you do? So you got to retool the defense just a little bit just because you're replacing Chris Jones. Chiefs already have a really good young defense. It's just really Chris Jones that's really that older player on that defense. So you just find a defensive tackle to fill in his spot. I get it. It's a big void to fill. I'm not saying like fill it in like it's that easy, but you find a defensive tackle to fill in. Because I haven't seen the Chiefs have it since the 1 year of Kareem Hunt before he got suspended. They got to go get Mahomes a running game.
Yeah.
So you got to, whether it be, maybe you trade for somebody like Breece Hall in the offseason. Go get somebody like that. Or maybe if he falls to you in that draft pick, you draft Jeremiah Love out of Notre Dame because it's cheaper. You got to get him a running back in a running game. That's going to ease this pressure off Patrick Mahomes because clearly we can see now that he hasn't played the last 2 games how much of the offense Patrick Mahomes is truly shouldering in Kansas City. So you got to get him a running game. You got to get him some help because I don't want – Patrick Mahomes was this team's leading rusher. That should not happen with him.
That's insane.
That should not happen with him. Or I don't have the exact stat. If he's not he's one of the leading rushers. Should not happen. Patrick Mahomes, I would not classify as a dual threat quarterback. He is capable, obviously, but I would not classify him as dual threat. All right, so get him a running game. You can keep Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco. They're good rotational pieces, but I need an every down back there. So you got to go get that. I think you gotta the receiving room for the most part is okay. Rashee Rice is obviously very good. Worthy is kind of he's just really a big play receiver. Where he's either gonna, make a huge play of 50 plus yards or he's not really giving you else much. So, I think Rashee Rice obviously is a good starting point. You got to maybe go find another receiver. You got to try to find maybe a gem in the draft, or maybe you end up signing one in free agency, whatever, excuse me, the case may be. But the other thing has got to be this offensive line. The offensive line has been abysmal. And they got off on the right foot with drafting Josh Simmons out of Ohio State. He's had some injuries this year, but when he's played, he's been very good. So you got to continue to build off that. With Patrick Mahomes, because the Patriots kind of went the same thing. People forget the Patriots, went so long or went over 10 years without winning a Super Bowl in Tom Brady's, tenure there. They went to Super Bowls. They lost to the Giants in that time frame, but it was from 05 to 2015 before we saw Brady win another Super Bowl. So it's okay. It was inevitable that Patrick Mahomes wasn't going to go to the Super Bowl every single year. It was inevitable. It's not going to happen. And if it did, you are the greatest living football player to ever walk this earth. Okay.
It was looking like it for a minute.
It was inevitable. It was going to happen. But with, just like the Patriots never went into a rebuild during that 10-year period. They just retooled.
Yeah.
And so as long as Andy Reid is the head coach of the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes is the quarterback of the Chiefs, you're never going to rebuild. You're always just retooling. Because as long as Patrick Mahomes is healthy and playing, he's always going to be within, if not one or two, the third, best Super Bowl odds, just because he's on the field.
Yeah.
So you're just retooling. And the way that they're talking in Kansas City, people think Mahomes is going to be ready week 1 next year.
We'll see.
So we'll see about that. But I think you just got to do that. If you can make a trade for like a more guaranteed back, like a Breece Hall or somebody like that, I'd do that. I would make that trade. And then use your first round pick on either an offensive lineman or a pass rusher. That's the other thing. Chris Jones is this team's best pass rusher, which is all well and good. But Chris Jones plays the defensive tackle position. Defensive tackles, unless your name has been, Aaron Donald for the most part, interior defensive linemen aren't typically, your best pass rushers. They come from the outside. Now, if you're one of your best pass rushers and you're coming from the interior, you're just really, really good, which Chris Jones is. But they got to get some outside pressure. That's going to be the other thing. You look at the Broncos, you look at even just within your division, Broncos, really good defense. They generate the most sacks in the NFL. All right. Chargers, they generate a lot of pressure within your own division. The Raiders, while the defense isn't great, you still have Max Crosby, who generates a lot of pressure. So, well, for now, I'll say they have Max Crosby.
Right.
But you got to get outside pressure, and you got to figure that out. So with that first pick, if you trade for Breece Hall and you're not going to go the Jeremiah Love way, then you get either a pass rusher or an offensive lineman. I think with that first pick, that second round pick, you take the other of whichever one you didn't take, if there's one good enough for that spot. And then from there, you start going, okay, maybe a wide receiver. Maybe we find an offensive lineman that slipped in the draft and we draft him here. We find an interior defensive lineman here, a linebacker here. That's where you start retooling. Your first 2 rounds for the Chiefs this year in the draft are very pivotal for them going forward, is what I'll say. I think as good of a connection as Kelce and Mahomes had, I feel like, because I've seen Mahomes when Kelce hasn't played, throw the ball very well to Noah Gray. I'm not going to say that like any tight end works with Andy Reid in them, but I think they can go get another tight end and it will be okay for them. I don't think you have to splash on a superstar tight end.
Yeah.
So
that's probably fair.
So, but yeah, the Chiefs, I think the Chiefs are easier to pick on with the Lions than the Colts, because obviously you already have a quarterback solidified, which is honestly in the NFL, it's all about it. The most important positions in the NFL, you got to have a quarterback, You got to have a left tackle. You got to have a pass rusher, and then everything else after that.
Right.
If you've got those three, you're good, or you've got at least a foundation where you're not questioning. Look at the Lions. I got a question about the quarterback. You've got a pass rusher. You've got a left tackle. With the Colts, I got no quarterback right now. No pass rusher. But I mean, Latu's been good, but he's not generating enough sacks, I would say.
Yeah.
So no quarterback, not really enough of a pass rush, but you got a left tackle because Bernard Raymond is pretty good. So you got one of the three. The Chiefs have the quarterback. Josh Simmons, I think, is the answer at left tackle. Now they just got to get a pass rusher.
Yeah,
So
there you go. Well, so with that, talking about the bad teams, let's talk about the good teams in the AFC and the NFC. So who we got for the favorites for the AFC and for the NFC?
So, dude, this year is so
It's a
up
weird
in
one.
the air.
It's a weird one this year.
It's so up in the air this year. It's truly, this is one of the first years that I can remember where we're gonna go in, because obviously growing up we had Brady, so like it was always like, well, we just pick Brady,
Yeah.
and the later years it's been, oh,
Mahomes.
there's Mahomes, we just pick Mahomes. We don't
Right.
have any of that.
No.
So
Which I think is going to be really fun to watch.
yeah.
Who's stepping up this year? Pretty
So
much.
here's my thing. So the easy thing to do is to just go AFC, just go, all right, I'm picking Buffalo because of Josh Allen. Josh Allen's ran into Patrick Mahomes every year. That's the reason why he hasn't made it. But here's my problem, and I was talking to my buddy last night about this, and we were talking about the NFL playoffs. So if I broke down all the AFC teams and if I went AFC, all right, Broncos, really good, but can I trust Bo Nix in a big moment? Like, these are all the questions I have about every team.
Right.
Patriots, I think they're way too young. I don't think they're ready for the moment right now. I think next year is probably their moment where they'll start, like, as far as in the playoffs, really going at Josh Allen and challenging Mahomes and, like that. I think they're a year away. Really good now, but the schedule was in their favor this year. I think next year is their year to really solidify themselves. Jaguars look really good right now, but now again, I have this question of big moment, light shining bright. Is Trevor Lawrence ready? Because I can make the argument right now that the Jaguars look like the best team in the AFC right now. They just beat the shit out of the Broncos last week, who are the 1 seed in the AFC. So I can make the argument that they look like the best team right now. But again, much like the Broncos with Bo Nix, can I trust Trevor Lawrence? With Buffalo, that defense is horrendous. They can't stop a nosebleed. So that's going to eventually bite them in the ass at some point, with or without Mahomes being there. The Steelers, the offense is so hit or miss with Aaron Rodgers that they're liable to score anywhere between 3 points to 38 points. And there's no consistency in between. Like, they're either going to score single digits or they're going to go for 30 plus. No in between with them. The Texans, the offense is kind of right now, but the defense is lights out.
Yeah.
And then the Chargers, Herbert's hurt right now. And then obviously we go off Herbert's playoff record. It's not great track record. So the AFC is so wide open. For a while, even though the offense has been hit or miss, I've been almost been wanting to ride with the Texans because I'm like, that defense is just so good that I think it's going to overcome a lot of different things in the playoffs, especially with it being so wide open. And really, with that good of a defense, if the Texans just find a way to score 20 points, I think they can win a lot of their games.
Yeah.
Which they scored 20 yesterday against the Chargers, won. So, prime example. But watching, I know, again, the Trevor Lawrence thing, but watching the Jaguars beat the shit out of Denver last week kind of moved me. And Liam Cohen's got Trevor Lawrence playing really, really good. And we could see how much Liam Cohen means because Baker's kind of been, he started off the year hot. Now he's been kind of fizzled out a little. So talking about coordinators making a difference, you could see Baker's missing Liam Cohen right now. He's got them playing. He's got Trevor playing really well. We already knew kind of the weapons around them with ETN and them were really good. It was just opening it up. The defense is pretty good in Jacksonville. I'm in a toss up between either Jacksonville, Buffalo, or Houston. And Buffalo would be just because I'm riding with it's Josh Allen. Like, he's going to figure it out. He's going to find a way to win just because Mahomes isn't there. But if I go to the NFC side, I have the same questions. Like, there's no favorite in the NFC either. Like, the Seahawks, Darnold is a turnover machine. That's going to come back to bite him in the ass in the playoffs. The Bears, Caleb is a 50% completion percentage guy. That's not going to be sustainable in the playoffs.
Yeah.
The Eagles can be the clear-cut best team in the NFL, but, you know, the offense is kind of, you don't know what you're getting week after week with the offense. If the media starts talking about A.J. Brown in the playoffs, they're going to start force-feeding A.J. Brown, and that offense is going to get worse because now Saquon's not getting touches. I don't know what I'm getting inside the locker room with Philadelphia.
Yeah.
The Panthers, great story. Can't take them seriously right now. I'm sorry. I'm not as a playoff team. There'll be a first-round exit. The Niners, eventually all these injuries are going to come back to bite them in the ass. Like, they've been playing well in the regular season, dealing with all these injuries, and Fred Warner's going to be coming back, so that's going to help out a lot of different things. But not having a lot of these guys due to injury, I would think at some point it's going to catch up to them.
Yeah.
The Rams are probably the best team in the NFC right now, but they go 2 weeks of looking like the clear-cut best team, not only in the NFC, but the NFL, and then they put together a stinker where you're like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah.
So that's going to come back and bite you in the ass. And then the Packers, Jordan Love's health right now going into the playoffs is a question. And then no Micah Parsons, I think that takes them out. I can't. Without Micah Parsons, if they still had Micah Parsons and all I got to worry about is Jordan Love, whether he can be ready off the concussion going into the playoffs, I could maybe see the Packers, but no Micah Parsons, I can't take the Packers.
Yeah.
So
I actually have less. I'm actually more confused about the NFC side than I would be the AFC side.
The AFC side is an easy fix if you just go, I'm just picking Josh Allen. But the NFC side, yeah, I'm just like, I don't know because
I literally am going through these teams and I can't pick one.
Because I mean, even if the Panthers collapse these last 2 weeks and Tampa ends up getting in, it doesn't change much. I wouldn't pick Tampa in any of these games for the most part.
Yeah.
But like the thing is, if we're talking, you know, if I take away all these questions, which you can't, but if I take them all away, honestly, I think the Rams do it just because. But honestly, the Bears are really good. And I'll tell you what, you know, Caleb is very special. And you can see it because those, you know, it takes a certain type of quarterback to play in cold weather. And I didn't think Caleb was going to be able to do it. But I've watched Caleb against the Browns in cold weather in Chicago and then against the Packers in cold weather in Chicago. And it's hard to pass in blistering winds and cold weather. And Caleb makes it look easy. And the Bears right now have a 2 seed in the playoffs. If everything played out, they would be the 2 seed, which means up until they would play the 1 seed, which right now is the 49ers, I believe. Or actually, I think it's the Seahawks right now. The Seahawks right now. So,
I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah. So that would mean all their playoff games are going to be in Chicago unless they met Seattle in the NFC Championship game, then they'd go to Seattle. I don't know if a lot of these teams want to make the trip to Chicago in December and January to play a playoff football game.
I especially the 49ers, the Rams, like none of those teams would, or if
Yeah,
Carolina
I
if they
mean
make it.
Philly would be used to it. Green Bay
Yeah,
would be used to
and
it.
Green Bay would be used to it, but
See, I mean, even if Seattle were to slip up and not make the 1 seed, they'd be used to, playing cold weather in Seattle. But I that 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 home field advantage where it comes in for Chicago is what makes it interesting because Caleb's throws don't look any different in the cold or in the wind than they do in just normal weather. And that's a big thing to have.
yeah.
Because it's kind of like over in the AFC side. But the problem with Buffalo is they're going to be playing pretty much all their games on the road.
Yep.
And you're not going to have that home field advantage of playing in the cold that they've had the last couple of years. And really, out of the top teams right now, the only team that would have that like home field cold advantage is the Patriots right now. And then Denver.
And Denver's is different because of the altitude.
Altitude.
Yeah. So playing in Denver is always rough for players.
And then we've seen how cold it can get in Foxborough. So,
yeah.
I mean, we saw Mac Jones had to put on a diver suit underneath his uniform for the cold.
Yeah. Well, I think yeah, I still think it's wide. I still think it's wide open on both sides. We might get some shifting after the next couple weeks because there's two more weeks in the season. So I think this is all going to depend on the actual matchups we get. Who's placed where? So in the first spots. So I would say we can make some picks here. We'll make our picks here in a couple weeks. But
hold on, I got you because I came prepared. So if I think these last couple weeks go the way they go, I think this is why I was saying the Niners were the 1 seed because the Niners still have to play Seattle and San Francisco. I think that's a big up for the Niners. So if everything plays out the way I've said, this is what the playoff matchups will be. So you'd have Bills, Steelers round 1, Texans, Jaguars, Chargers, Patriots, and then the NFC side, Packers, Bears, Seahawks, Eagles, and then Rams, and then Buccaneers. This is why I said, talk about if Carolina were to collapse. Carolina still has to play Tampa Bay as well. So, which, by the way, Carolina, and why I said this, their last 2 games, where are they at?
It's Seattle.
They have to play Seattle today and then at Tampa next week.
At Tampa, yeah.
Which I think is a recipe for disaster for them.
We'll see. Bryce Young's been pulling shit out.
And meanwhile, Tampa, they get the Dolphins today and then Carolina next week, obviously.
Yeah.
So that helps them. But so if we play it out like this.
With this being, okay, so the Broncos being the 1 seed and
Broncos being the 1 seed, Niners being the 1 seed.
Man, they would jump up quite a bit because in this right here, they're at the 5 seed right now.
Well, yeah, because you got to look the NFC West is literally separated by 1 game between the Seahawks, Niners, and Rams. So literally 1 game swings this whole division.
I got you.
Because the Seahawks are 12-3, the Niners are 11-4, Rams are 11-4.
Gotcha.
So let's just go off this. So obviously, even in Pittsburgh, I would take Josh Allen and the Bills over Pittsburgh.
Oof. In Pittsburgh, that's tough. But yeah, I think ultimately
Josh Allen in cold weather is a cheat code.
Yeah, okay.
He's a psycho. He loves that cold weather. I think if you ask Josh Allen, he'd almost rather play in the cold than the warm.
Maybe.
I'm gonna skip this because I'm gonna come back to this because I'm not so sure right now. I think in this matchup, I would take the Patriots to win 1 game at least. Again, Herbert's track record in the playoffs. LA having to go play in the cold in New England.
Yeah.
I would go Patriots. Rams and Bucks, I would go with the Rams. Seattle and Philly, I'm probably taking Philly just because I'm not trusting Sam Darnold with the turnover problems against Philly, even with the offense. Again, another cold weather game. And then again, this game, I think this game would be very, very good. But without Micah Parsons and then in Chicago, I think I would roll with the Bears.
Yep.
And then that leaves us with Jacksonville and Houston. And I think this game, it's such a coin toss because Houston's defense, really, really, really good. Obviously, we keep talking about it. But Jacksonville has been playing out of their mind. But what kind of catapulted the Texans' win streak, if you remember, back in what week was this? Back in week 10, the Jaguars had a 19-point lead going into the fourth quarter. And this was without CJ Stroud. This was with Davis Mills playing quarterback because CJ was hurt. Up 19 going into the fourth, and the Texans scored 26 unanswered points in the fourth quarter to come back and win that game. Now, obviously, offense, big part of that. You got to score points, but that means the defense had to shut out Jacksonville. So I'm just not sure about this game. If I went just strictly off of if you played the who's the better quarterback game and just went with the better quarterback, I'd go CJ Stroud with the Texans.
Right now?
Yeah.
Nah.
I wouldn't.
Trevor Lawrence is playing way better than CJ right now.
I'd still go CJ. And then but
I pick defense over offense every day.
So you would go with Texans here?
I would, yeah.
Yeah.
But I still think Trevor Lawrence is playing way better than CJ right now.
Yeah, I just think
right now. I'm not saying he's a better quarterback. I'm just saying right now.
I think I would just have to ride with my gut feeling and just go Texans because of that.
I would go Texans. I pick a great defense all day. We've seen it time and time.
So that would leave you with Buffalo, New England in New England, Houston, Denver in Denver, and then over on the NFC side, Rams, Niners in San Francisco, and then Eagles, Bears in Chicago. Now, here, I think I would easily this is where I think the Patriots youth is too much.
Nope, I disagree.
You would take the Patriots?
Yeah. They learned from their mistakes because what were they up on Buffalo last time? And they came back and won. You know what I mean? You learn from your mistakes here. It's hard to beat a team like that again.
New England was up 24-7, and then Buffalo went on a 28-7 run in the second half.
Yeah, they don't let that happen again. Vrabel does not let that happen again. I definitely would go New England.
Okay.
In New England.
But see, again, two cold weather teams. That cold weather kind of cancels out.
And arguably, Drake May's playing better than Josh Allen right now.
I could see it.
I mean, I'm just saying. That's where I go. You can pick whatever you want. I would go Patriots.
I'm not against it.
I know you like Josh Allen. This almost seems like it's built for his year because Mahomes and Lamar are both out. And it's like, who's your next best quarterback? It's Josh Allen. But yeah, the Patriots are fucking good, dude.
They are. I just think that youth has got to come back at them at some point.
And it's probably against when the Texans beat the Broncos.
Yeah. So see, that's my thing with this one. All right.
I think your next game determines what happens with the Texans and the Broncos.
So the Texans and Broncos. So two really good defenses. And when I boil down to two really good defenses, I got to go with who's the better offense. And Denver's the better offense
right Denver now is right now.
In Houston. So now CJ's more proven than Bo Nix. So if you're going to play that game, then you go CJ.
Yeah, but Sean Payton.
Yeah, it's Sean Payton. I think Denver would win this game.
Yeah, in Denver too. Yeah, I would agree. But man, that's gonna be a low. I think that's a low scoring game.
Oh yeah.
If you're betting on that game, bet the under.
All right, and then Eagles Bears. Now this is an interesting game because again, what Eagles are we getting?
What Philly team are you getting?
If I'm getting the the Philly team you would expect, then I say cold weather. No matter what, I'd say Eagles win this game because the Bears are just too young. and not ready for. I don't know if Caleb's ready for that moment.
Yeah. So for me, this almost seems like the Mahomes type of pick.
You're saying this is like you think this is Caleb's coming out party?
No, 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 no. I think Philly just clicks during the playoffs,
Oh, I
just
got you.
like the Chiefs do. And if they click, they could run the table and go to the Super Bowl 100%. You
They
have the
could win the
pieces to
Super
do
Bowl.
it. They've just did it.
Yeah,
So to me, I actually would pick Philly in this game because I ultimately think they click. Something clicks. It's playoff time,
yeah,
and now all of a sudden they're like, "Oh shit, they look like the best team in
yeah.
football."
I would think. Yeah, again, and you play the quarterback game. Jalen Hurts versus Caleb Williams. I think I would trust Hurts to figure it
I would
out if
try. He's been in the situations, right?
correct.
The
And
only
then
reason, and you could say the same thing about Josh Allen and the Patriots, which is probably why you're going Buffalo. But the reason I pick the Patriots over Buffalo is they've already played them and they've already made mistakes, and they're not going to do that again. And I think the recipe is there. They just
yeah,
have
but
to
you can make
follow
the
it.
same argument for the Buffalo side of New England. That's why they lost in Buffalo to New England. They came back and beat them in New England. So now it's kind of like a squash. Now you're just playing. Now you're just playing. This is
Nah,
we beat them. We beat them. They beat us.
I I still think, yeah, I see why you're picking Buffalo. I still go New England, but yeah, no,
Um,
definitely Philly in this situation. They've been there. It's you can't. It's hard to bet against them, type of thing.
and then LA and the Niners. I would go LA.
Yeah, me
Um,
too. Same thing. If you're getting a team that doesn't, you know, you're also playing the 40. You're going to play the 49ers that are injuries we've already
injured.
talked about are a problem. So if Matthew Stafford and company show up, kind of like Philly, they're gonna. I think they win no problem.
Yeah, and the last time the Niners played the Rams was week 10, and the Rams won 42-26.
Yeah. So
Now that was also with Mac Jones playing quarterback, not Brock Purdy, if you want to factor that in.
eh,
Um,
Pat Jones
but
didn't play bad though.
no, and in that game, Mac Jones was 33 of 39 for 319, 3 touchdowns and a pick.
Yeah, Purdy's doing that if
Yeah.
you want him to.
So now and again, if Devontae Adams, if he's healthy going into the playoffs, and you have Devontae and Puka, and now you look at the Rams, Blake Corum is arguably playing just as good as Kyron Williams. So you got a two-headed monster at running back to have to deal with, along with Matthew Stafford,
Stafford's
with
experience.
Puka and Devontae Adams and
Yeah.
all these guys. I'd go Rams. And then I think I'm gonna stick with the Bills. I know you're going Patriots on the other side. So when we get to this,
We're gonna do this again in a couple weeks, so
yeah. So then your scenario would be Patriots at Broncos.
yeah,
My
mine. I would probably go. That one's gonna be tough for me. I'd go better defense on that one. I'd go Broncos.
okay. Now my thing is, and maybe I'm just playing the Josh Allen card way too much. And maybe I'm overthinking it.
It's this year. It's his year. No matter
And
where
maybe
they're
I'm
at in
just
the playoffs.
overthinking it, or
You know what I
maybe
mean?
I'm not. But I think this has got to be the moment where Bo Nix reaches the AFC Championship game. This is the moment where Bo Nix kind of, I don't want to say crumbles, but just doesn't play up to par against Josh Allen.
Maybe not.
But at the same time, Josh Allen's got to play, this Denver defense.
And Bo Nix has Sean Payton on his side, which I definitely would take Sean Payton coaching this game.
So let's see. Hold on.
You know what I mean?
Let's
Being
go
able to
back.
put Bo Nix in the right spots.
You know what? I'm going to go back. I'm changing my pick. I'm going Texans over Broncos.
Ooh.
I'm going to go back. Now, why? Because earlier this year, the Texans did play the Broncos, and that was without CJ Stroud. That game was 18-15 with Davis Mills playing quarterback. Again, better defense, I think, prevails. You add CJ Stroud, I think that definitely adds you at least a touchdown in there because all they got was 5 field goals. You definitely get a touchdown out of CJ Stroud in that game. Defense over trumps. And I think that defense would be too much for Bo Nix and them. And then again, going back to what you said with the whole Buffalo and New England, Houston learns from what they just played with when they played Denver earlier.
Yeah, sure.
So I would switch my pick. Houston, Buffalo. Because the only reason I'm saying this is because I'm just going to ride with my gut feeling and what I've had from the last couple of weeks. And I'm going to go Houston goes to the Super Bowl.
Wow.
That defense is literally insane.
It is, but going based on your logic, Josh Allen's the guy to beat that.
True, but they also have to be able to play defense.
Yeah, Buffalo can't play defense. That's why I don't think
they can't play defense. And if you want to play the logic, because we've been playing the logic, Houston already beat Buffalo this year. So if you play the logic of, okay, Buffalo learns from it, moves on. But again, Houston beat Buffalo with Davis Mills, not CJ Stroud. And that game was 23-19. And in that game, Josh Allen was not great. He did have 2 picks in that game. So
yeah. Oh man, this playoff is gonna be fun.
Yeah, so for me, I'm just gonna ride with if I'm just riding straight off my gut here.
That's fun.
I'm also going Rams.
You gonna go Rams?
I get it, cold weather in Philly. Rams almost got it done last year. I'm adding Devontae Adams into that. I don't think the Eagles needed a blocked field goal to beat LA earlier this year. That's not happening again.
If Saquon ends up finding a groove, I think Philly's beating everybody.
I wouldn't disagree.
So
I'm going.
I would
LA.
still pick Philly in this situation, but
so you would have Denver.
We'll do this again. Just keep going. We're gonna do this again in a couple weeks. I'll have mine, and you'll have yours.
All right, and then in this scenario, LA, Houston, Super Bowl. I understand defense trumps offense, but if you're this Texans defense, you're gonna have to deal with Puka. You're gonna have to deal with Kyron. You're gonna have to deal with Devontae Adams. I think it's too much. I think this is LA's year to win the Super Bowl. Get Matt Stafford his second ring.
Which, if that happens, that definitely moves him up in the all-time rankings.
Oh yeah, I've had this hot take since Stafford won his Super Bowl. To me, Stafford's better all time than Rodgers.
Oh, absolutely, I agree with that.
Like, I get it that it took Stafford longer than Rodgers to win his first, but I'm looking at the scenario that Stafford was in Detroit and how he was able to elevate them. And then also what you also got to take into a factor, look at what Stafford does for wide receivers. Calvin Johnson, all-time great. Who was his quarterback in his great all-time year? Matthew Stafford. Cooper Kupp, just a couple years ago, had one of the greatest wide receiver seasons we've ever seen, winning the Triple Crown. Who's his quarterback? Matthew Stafford. Puka Nacua is breaking all kinds of records in his first 3 years in the NFL as a wide receiver. Who's his quarterback? Matthew Stafford. Rodgers is great. Rodgers is arguably one of, if not the best throwers of the football I've ever seen. But if I'm going accolade for accolade and all this, and especially if you had this Super Bowl, he's better than Rodgers by far.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, so there's the playoff picture right now. Again, there's 2 more weeks in the season, so there could be a little more shakeups as far as where people are positioned and seated. But so yeah, we'll do this again in a couple weeks, and I'll have my picks. Lucas will have his picks, and we'll maybe we'll do a little fun little bet. From that and see.
All right, real quick, I want to touch on a couple things with the NBA. One, I'm not going to go into detail because I did this a couple weeks ago, but the Lakers just got to blow it up. You got to get rid of LeBron and get rid of Austin Reeves. They got to go. Your 4 best players on your team, Luka, LeBron, Reeves, Ayton, all are subpar below defenders. You can't have your 4 best players on your team not play defense. So you got to blow it up. I would literally blow it up and, get rid of them. Also Austin Reeves is in a contract year. You're going to have to sign him. He's not worth the max deal that he's going to ask. I'd let him trade him, get something for him, and let another team make that decision.
Okay.
All right.
What about LeBron?
LeBron, I think you ask him, listen, we are grateful that you brought back, when we were in a bad spot in LA when you came in, and you won a title. You made it exciting again for the Lakers, but it's time for us to move on as a franchise. And we would like to also try to help you, put you in a good situation where you could still win while also helping us. Like, we don't want to send you somewhere that's going to give us bad things in return just because you want to go to a certain place. But we will help you pick that place. Now, wherever that place is, I don't know, but maybe it's New York. Maybe you get like OG Anunoby in return. That's a helpful 3-and-D type wing to help put next to Luka to help build towards. I don't know. I don't know because I don't know what you would say LeBron's trade value is either right now, because it's anywhere in between. I'm willing to give up a first and a player because LeBron's going to put us over that level, or it's between I don't want to give up any picks because he might retire.
I think it's that, and he's a salary cap hit. So
I don't know where his spot is and what his trade value is, but he's got to go. I hate saying that as a LeBron guy, but he's got to go.
Well, we're just in that era.
Yeah. And then a little bit, the Spurs are a problem, Doug. I don't know if you watched any NBA basketball on Christmas Day or if you've been paying attention at all. The Spurs have
watched Wemby any chance I get.
The Spurs have beaten Oklahoma City 3 times now.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
And just 2 weeks ago, we were all having a debate, not we all, like as in like us, but like the sports media world and the NBA world was having a debate on whether the Thunder were going to crush the NBA record, like the NBA win-loss record this year. And now they've lost 3 times to San Antonio. Now, do I think at the end of the day, if they matched up in a Western Conference Finals in a 7-game series, do I think San Antonio's beating OKC in a 7-game series? Probably not. But not this year, at least. But
they're close.
They're close. Because listen, the Thunder's thing is they want to play physical, and they want to on defense. They want to get physical with you. Refs, the refs aren't calling it, as much on OKC, whatever you want to call it, whatever. They're playing physical. They're bumping you. They're doing all that. The problem is San Antonio has the guard and wing depth to play physical, and they are willing to play physical back with you. And so when you're trying to punch somebody in the mouth and scare them, and that other person is not scared and punches you back, now we're kind of seeing what is OKC really truly made of.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. And the 3 wins that San Antonio has over OKC, Wemby has not been playing a whole lot of minutes. He's only been playing 18 to 20 minutes coming back off his injury. So that's the thing. They've beaten OKC, and not only beaten them soundly the 3 times without Wemby taking off. So something, I think they're a year away. But kind of like we just talked about, like with the Patriots in the NFL, I think they're a year away from being a problem for everybody else. The Spurs are a year away from being a problem with everybody else. And that includes OKC. And then last thing, and this is going to be a little rant because we touched on this a little bit when what was the guy's name that did it for Louisville? London
Johnson.
Yeah. London Johnson. And his scenario is a little bit different than some of these other guys that are doing it now. But James Najee was just granted eligibility to play at Baylor, and right away, too.
Like James this year?
Najee, yes.
Wow. I didn't know
James
that. I
Najee,
thought for next year.
If I remember, just 2 years ago. Now, unless that's changed, but when it was announced, it was said that he is eligible to play this year. James Najee was just drafted pick 31 or 32 just a couple years ago. Not only that, played in the G League. Or not played in the G League, played in the Summer League that summer. But the reason why he's able to play is because he technically, even though he played in the Summer League, did not officially sign his NBA contract. So that's why he's allowed to come back. But now there's this new one. And Trenton Flowers. And Doug, I know that name sounds familiar because at one point he was committed to play at Louisville.
Yes, he was.
Before he decided to go G League Ignite and then went to the NBA. Here's my problem with it. Trenton Flowers has played in the NBA. There is literally a highlight tape of him playing in the NBA, in
Yeah,
NBA regular season games.
now that's a problem.
And he's trying to come back to college, and they're saying he may be ruled eligible for next year.
How?
Now, I'm okay with the whole, you went to the G League, you never signed official NBA contract. Like, if you did all that, like you didn't, okay. If you've played in an active NBA game, there's no way, in an actual NBA game, there's no way, not a chance in hell you should be allowed to play in college. And so this is the problem. And we said originally it wasn't a problem, but this was the problem that everybody foresaw with the whole London Johnson thing and why this could become a problem. And we're seeing it kind of, now we got everybody wanting to do it, and they're wanting to do it to the extreme. So now here's my thing. I think you got to change the rule if you're NCAA.
Yeah, you don't have a choice.
To me, if you have put your name in the NBA draft and you have chosen not to come back, you foregone your eligibility to keep your name in the draft, whether you sign your pro contract or not, you can't come back. You made that choice. You gave it up. Whether you sign your pro contract or not, that's on you. But you can't come back. I think that's what you got to change it to, because this is ridiculous. James Najee, I understand. There's the line in the sand where he just didn't sign his contract. He still has eligibility. Fine. That's as far as I'm willing to push it, though. I can't push it past that. Trenton Flowers has played NBA minutes.
Yeah, he should not be allowed to come back to college. That's horrible.
And
NCAA, again, they're a bunch of just idiots, dude.
If that's the case, hey, Kentucky, can we try to lure Nikola Jokic to come play next year?
Well,
can Duke try to lure Giannis to come back and play for a couple of years at Duke? Hey, LeBron, you can go play at Ohio State your last couple of years of basketball.
Yeah, you never went to college.
Why not?
Yeah.
I mean, like that was the problem that everybody, the London Johnson thing, kind of like similar to James Najee. I understand it, but that's as far as I'm willing to go. I can't go anything past that. Like, once you've played active NBA minutes, because my thing is, and even if you didn't play active NBA minutes, if you made an NBA roster at any point, that means you have signed a contract.
Yeah, if you sign a contract, you should not be allowed to come back.
So even if you didn't play minutes in the NBA, but you were on the 12-man roster at some point, you can't come back. There's no way. Because now we're just opening the door for these 24, 25, 26-year-olds that decided to go pro way too early, didn't pan out the way they wanted to, and now because they technically have eligibility left, they can figure out a way to maneuver themselves back into college. No, you made that choice. You made the big boy choice to jump and go. When everybody probably told you weren't ready and you shouldn't go, you still decided to go. That's on you. You made that choice. Now live with it. So, because that's exactly how it's going for Trenton Flowers. Trenton Flowers was a 4 or 5-star prospect, was going to be very good if he had went to Louisville, was going to be, a potential, high NBA prospect. Shit didn't pan out because he'd made a bad decision. Shit didn't pan out for him. And now he's not happy. So now he's able to come back potentially to the NCAA and essentially have a redo.
And yeah, now the only reason they're doing that is because they can make NIL money.
And there just shouldn't be.
There has to be so many regulations on this. It's crazy.
Because, at the average person, we don't get redos in life when we make a decision.
No. Second chances don't come around often. So you got to make the most of it.
Why should it for them?
Yeah. Man, the NCAA is going to have to figure it out. Man, they got a lot of shit to figure out. The NCAA really needs to get their stuff together, man. I cannot for the life of me understand how that organization has made it this far with the people running it. I just don't get it. There's no common sense over there whatsoever. I just don't see it.
Yeah, I don't know, but
that could be.
That's my rant on it. We'll see more as more comes out with that. If they decide they're going to allow him to play and all that, we'll have more. But that's my take on it. There's no way he should be allowed to play.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that as a Kentucky is in the mix for him. Like they're on his list. He should not play. Period. So.
Yep. All right. Well, I think that was a good ending. Yeah. Happy New Year to everybody. We'll see you guys.
We'll see y'all next year.
We'll see y'all next year as the dad joke of the year comes in. And like, comment, subscribe. We'll see you guys next week.